Hello and welcome to the Weekly Outlook. This is the DeFi Dojo. Today is March 10th. We just had a daylight savings time switch over here in America, so I'm running a couple minutes later than I normally am. Typically, when daylight savings time happens, I don't do these weekly outlooks until 9:30, just because my kid has a hard time going to sleep when it's still light out. If it were up to me, I would totally get rid of daylight savings time. I think it's an absolute shit show, but I don't have any choice. So I'm gonna keep trying to do this at 8:30, especially since the bull market's here and the weekly candle closes at 8. I'm keeping an eye on things for a full hour before that weekly close, so I kind of have a good idea of what's going on anyway. Sometimes what can happen though is within that first hour, so between 8 and 9, we can see a lot of volatility. And so I do like to wait until that volatility subsides before I really give a good analysis. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do it at 8:30 and see how it goes. And I might switch it to 9:30 at some point in the future. For now, I think I'm going to keep it the way it is. For one, because I like being able to update as soon as that candle's going. And two, I like my nights, and I like to be able to trade if I can. So typically the good trading happens during that 9:30 to 10:30 window, and then I don't get to participate, and I get kind of upset. So anyway, let's get started. Here's the dollar. So we went sideways for 2 months. We actually had a freaking cross bullish here, right? And then it had 1 week staying above, and then last week we just came all the way back down. We actually closed below the weekly pivot and everything. So this was kind of a pretty dirty move to go from being bullish to fully bearish in 1 week. And now we're opening below and heading downward. So all of this little kind of indication that the dollar was giving me that we might see a pullback in equities was just, blown to pieces here by this candle. And now we can see that, equities are hitting the first part of that take profit zone. I was expecting a pullback way back here that just never came and still hasn't come. This move is absolutely insane. You can even go back to the previous bull market and we never saw anything like this. Even when things were super bullish and there was zero fears of recession and zero fears of inflation, none of that was happening here. So this move is quite remarkable. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like it. It's very similar to this one, right? Just before the COVID crash. You can see how kind of straight up that was, and any red week it had was basically just a doji candle, right? And then here is kind of the same situation happening. We've had 2 red weeks so far since October. That's insane. I don't know how long it can keep doing that without getting a correction, but the longer it does, the harder that correction is going to be. And you could see how kind of that happened here. I don't think it'll be anything like this because obviously this was a black swan and COVID and stuff. But you can see how something like that turns into this following 2 weeks later. So just be aware that this can happen, and it can happen very quickly, and nobody can really tell when it's going to happen. Typically, it happens when the candle gets super far away from the 8 EMA on the weekly like this, and then it has to just correct and get back to the EMAs again before it can start figuring out where it's going to go next. And right now you can see we're getting pretty high up there. We're also hitting that main fib at the 1.272, so I don't know if we see some sort of pullback here or if we close above it. If we close above it, then we just got to take it to the 1.414, close above that, and we'll take it to the 1.618. This is the main target I had at the beginning of the year, but my forecast was maybe we'll get there by the end of the year, and it's only March and we're already there. So it's crazy. I don't care that I've missed most of this. I really don't. It's irrational and nuts and risky. And jumping in on any one of these candles for any sort of short-term trade is just really risky, right? I'm glad that I have all of the stuff that I have from these lows. I took a lot of profits along the way already, and I've just been holding on since, waiting to get back in on something else on a pullback, and we just haven't gotten it. So I'm kind of more focused on crypto at the moment, and just keeping an eye on what this does and waiting for some sort of correction. I would really love to grab this trend line again, which it always corrects to eventually. You can see that that's kind of the correction trend line. for 14 years now. And whenever it touches that line is basically when you want to take some really good longs. And so I'm just going to be patient and wait for the day that comes when that trend line gets touched again, and I'll grab some longs. NQ is really no different, although it hasn't reached its 1.272 yet at 19K, so that's kind of the next spot to watch for, and what happens when we do touch 19,000. With the S&P already touching and NQ has not yet, it makes me wonder how that can get to the 1.272 without ES breaking it, right? So we'll see what happens this week. I'm actually really curious, but I'm probably not going to be doing any sort of trading short term for equities. I do have an NVIDIA put that's been doing really well, surprisingly, even though NVIDIA went up last week and then kind of crashed a little, but I'm not, holding hope for that because NVIDIA is just so bullish. I'll probably end up losing on it. So I don't recommend following me. All right, so let's get into crypto. We have the stablecoin dominance continues to just fall. It doesn't matter what fibs get in its way. It just pierces them and falls straight through them. So now we're targeting this S3 on the weekly and the golden pocket for stablecoin dominance, which should end up making Bitcoin go even higher. And we'll see what happens with altcoins once Bitcoin decides to finally start moving sideways. That's what we're waiting for on that. Looking at Bitcoin against the NASDAQ, we're fully through the greed and FOMO zone, so we should expect Bitcoin now to outperform the NASDAQ moving forward until we reach these levels up here. And as you can see, that's quite a ways away, so just assume bullishness on crypto for the foreseeable future. Total market cap, we got all the way to the 886, and you can see we're starting the week right now, kind of pulling a little bit back from that, and we'll see what happens. Sometimes what can happen is we can kind of zigzag around inside this greed and FOMO zone for a while, or we just blast right through it. Cycles before have done both, so we don't really have any way to know which kind of cycle we're in, where it might consolidate, make some sort of bullish pennant in here for a while, but I do kind of think we might get some sideways action on Bitcoin this week, and hopefully that translates into total 3 moving up and letting our altcoins finally make a nice move. But this has been a nice consolidation in between these two fibs for total 3 against Bitcoin, right? So you can see that we've been holding that forever. Every time it hit that 0.5, I bought some more alts, and that's kind of what I've been using to DCA into altcoins, and so doing pretty well with that strategy so far. There's no telling whether or not we might break it and head to the golden pocket. That's totally a possibility as well. If we do, then I'm not selling anything. I'm just going to buy more once we get here, because I think that would be the last stop if it does happen. Looking at Bitcoin itself, we actually just closed on the CME over the previous all-time high, right? So that's pretty cool. We also just opened this week's candle above it as well, and getting a little bit of pullback here to start the week off, but nothing really to be concerned about yet. I wouldn't worry too much about it. I would just kind of wait for a nice dip to buy some more if it was me. Looking at the spot chart, I wanted to notate these two levels here. So here is last cycle's previous all-time high, right? And you can see the weekly candles that it took to actually get through it, right? And if you zoom in here, it wasn't until, we got close to that 8 EMA again that it finally went up, right? And so maybe we can kind of expect the same thing here, where we might just be beating on this door for a few weeks, at least until this EMA catches up. Right now, the main support is going to be the 886, and that's because the 8 EMA on the weekly is right at the same location. So, we could get a dip all the way back down to 658 from 68, and that would be a pretty hefty dip in terms of percentage. That's 15%, but that is what's possible here, and we'd still be fully bullish. Like, we wouldn't even have to worry about that if that happened. It's if we break that 58,000 mark, then we might have to start worrying about a deeper pullback that might take us to the 786, 71. Either way, we play our levels. As soon as we close the candle over that 69,000 mark, then we can maybe start saying, okay, it's time for us to make the big move. And you can see how big of a gap there is in here. There's nothing in the way of Bitcoin going up to these targets for the cycle top that we're looking for. So that's Bitcoin. Looking at Ethereum, it tapped the 886 on the CME and on the spot chart. So we're waiting for that close above that as well. Any dips down towards the 8 EMA or the 786 at 34, 33, 3300, that's where I would grab some more. Right now we're really extended over the 8 EMAs everywhere, like ES, NQ, Bitcoin, Ethereum. Everything is just way above its 8 EMA on the weekly, right? So it's not something I recommend buying up up this high. I would much rather wait for some sort of pullback. Problem is when we're in a bull market, it doesn't really give us one. It kind of just, the opening of the candle is the pullback, right? So maybe that's what's happening here, and we want to grab it right away. If you're under allocated and think you need more, then maybe that's what you want to do. Personally, it's a risk because you never know when this is going to give us a bigger pullback. If we look back here at Ethereum's history and just kind of give us an idea of what happens when it approaches all-time highs, you can see that it kind of had the same situation where it spent several weeks before actually piercing it. And then once it did, it gave us a pullback to test it again before going higher. You can also see that on the fib scale, it didn't really go too much higher than the previous all-time high. It only went to the 1.414, whereas Bitcoin went to the 1.618. So when we measure this one and try to see where we might go, then the 1.414 might be a good place to take profits at 10K, right? And just say, okay, well, the last cycle didn't go higher than that. Maybe this one does, but like I don't want to risk profits just, hoping, right? We don't want to hope. So I'm probably going to take some profits here at the 1.414, maybe even the 1.272. I'm not sure yet. I want to see what it looks like. And then if we can close a candle over it, then cool. I'll hop back in for some more and take it to the 1.618, so on and so forth. But this is, this is going to get there. Like, I don't really have any doubts that we're not going in this box eventually. How we get there is anyone's guess. All right, so I think that covers everything. Oh, we'll look at ETH Bitcoin one more time. So this still has like a lot of like room to move up. And right now it's battling with the weekly pivot at 0.061. As soon as that breaks, I expect this to just totally smash all of this. That weekly pivot's like the only thing holding this up. If we zoom in, we are very close to crossing bullish. We just haven't gotten quite there yet. And you can see the MACD is still well below here, right? And so this is kind of what I think is holding up our altcoin rally, is the fact that Ethereum hasn't really completely taken over yet. It might seem like it has because it's up so high, but compared to Bitcoin, it's still sitting in this zone, and it hasn't really overtaken Bitcoin completely yet, and it won't until it can clear that pivot. So we're watching for 0.061 to break on the ETH Bitcoin chart. All right, I think that covers everything. Does anybody have any chart requests or questions? Always know also you can leave your chart requests in that chart requests channel. I do try to get to them as soon as I can. And I have mostly gotten to all of them, I think, right now. Coin. What's coin? Is that a crypto? Oh, okay. Coinos. That's the first I've heard of that one. That's because it's pretty new, it looks like. I wonder if there's an older chart. That's definitely not it. Okay, so that's it. All right, well, this here in itself is a bullish formation. It's like a bullish pennant or flag. And let's see, I would draw that. So it's kind of already gotten held up on its 1.618. And now it's back underneath all those take profit levels, which the 1.272 to the 1.618 is your take profit zone. And you can see that people took full advantage of that zone and took profits all the way back down to our 886. So really this is your main level to watch for, and I know that you're not going to like this because it's so far down here, but that spot right there is what absolutely must hold. So that is where you need to keep your stop loss on something this volatile. Best entries are going to be 8 EMAs and 21 EMA touches, or the previous all-time high at 94 cents. If it falls below 94 cents, that's when you got to start saying, okay, I need to be careful here. And if it breaks that 886, and closes a candle below it, then just get out, because that's dangerous. Next target above that you could maybe try to take advantage of if this remains bullish is the 2.272. So you're looking at some hefty upside here, but you have to consider how much of a drawdown you might experience as well. So that's 175 to the top, and then to your stop loss, you're at 30%. So, the risk reward's still there. You're just going to have to stomach some potential drawdown if that ends up happening. Okay, Matic. Yes, I love my Matic. It finally hit where I wanted it to hit, and it was not easy. It took a lot of, look at this candle, like 96 cents to 125 in 1 week. But I just kind of tried not to watch it and finally got the result I was looking for. So now we got to break that 618, right? So that's where it's having trouble, but we hit our target. It's bullish. We have like a huge time frame triangle that's broken. I'm assuming this is just going to continue to do this for a really long time now. How that gets invalidated is if it breaks back below the 0.5, but really it would have to break back into that triangle to really invalidate it. And you can maybe extend the triangle to that wick there in order to feel better about it, and you can see that kind of lines up really well with the 0.5 if that were to come back down here. So 96 cents is kind of the stop here. But I would leave it at a mental stop. Like, I wouldn't put a hard stop loss in there to just take my coins if it hits. I would make sure that the weekly closed below it. Come in on a Sunday night, say, okay, the weekly closed below it. I'm gonna go sell. That's how I would do it. And that's how I would do it with Bitcoin and everything else too right now, because of how volatile things can be. Like, you can get wicks below, and then they end up coming all the way back up and closing the candle back inside the EMAs or over the 8 EMA, and then you're like, ah, crap, I got stopped out. So a good example of this, and I'll show you here, is if you run your stop loss according to the weekly EMA, just like my YouTube video says, and you continue to just run that stop loss, let me get rid of this box, it's no longer relevant, under the 21, you can see how you can get wicked out here, right? But then it closes back above the 21. You don't want to sell here. You want to sell if it closes under the 21. And you can see that during this entire bull market here, how well it respects that 21 EMA, right? Like, all these wicks down to it. You don't want to have your stop loss, a hard stop loss, just sitting like right here, right? And take you out on the bottom and then rip without you. Just come in on Sunday night, see if it closes below, and you can do this with all of your altcoins too. If it closes the candle below, then okay, take some profits. But if it doesn't, like, you can just keep riding this until it tells you not to, which is right here, right? And you get out right here, and you save yourself the bear market, like the entire thing, right? And you don't get back in until it closes a candle back above them both, right here, right? Take it up here, get stopped out here. Save yourself all that pain. Don't get back in until we get back above. Start retesting with nice supports here, right? Here's your cue to get back in. And then we ride it up into the bull market. And so that's what we're going to do in this situation. We're just going to wait and hold on until this tells us to get out, right? Right now the EMA is saying fully bullish. There's no reason to get out. And we're just going to wait until we see some sort of divergence on the chart, which will look something like, like this, where we have like two tops or a few points of interest that we can draw trends on the RSI and say, okay, this is weakening. While this is getting higher, that's our divergence. EMAs are crossing bearish, time to get out, and let's start shorting. But we're like really far away from that right now. Like, in order for that to be the case, we would need to see something like, and I might be rambling right now, but this is just kind of what goes on through my head. We might see something like that, and then a move back up. And then if we get that right here, and then this is no longer pointing up, which it is right now, like let's say it's pointing down, then that might tell us we're having a shallow top, But until I see something like that, I have no reason to think bearishness whatsoever. I don't think it'll happen until we get somewhere up here, and then we go like that, and then down, and then that's our bearish divergence showing up here. All right, hope that helps. And there's more chart requests. Let's go back over here. FLX. It's definitely being stubborn on this 0.5. I'm not going to lie, but it's still closing weekly candles over it. So while it's doing that, I can't really say I want to get rid of it. I kind of just want more as long as it's staying above there. Um, it's taking its time, that's for sure. But I don't see any reason to, panic about it yet. And I'm going to continue to hold and wait for golden pocket 786 touches from here at the very least. VRA. I can't believe this thing's still alive, to be honest with you. But, it's definitely bullish. And it's still hitting that 0.5, so I'd be careful with that. I wouldn't be in this anymore. I'd be taking profits right now, because of how we closed over and now we closed back below and now we're heading back down. I would definitely take profits on this at this moment in time because of that situation exactly right there, and then it's probably going to come find that 8 EMA again, which sits nicely at 1 cent. And that's about 20% away from here. So be careful with that one. And then you can't be confident in it anymore unless it closes back above that 0.5. So that 0.013858 mark, that's where it needs to close above. DMTR. Okay. What is that? I don't even know if I want to use that wicked candle. Yeah, alright, so I'm ignoring that because that's kind of like the front run that happens when coins open on exchanges. So you can see we're hitting that 0.5 here too. So take profits on that unless it clears that 0.105 mark. ARB. Oh, I have ARB over here somewhere. And broke that trend finally. Yeah, so maybe a good retest entry here on that. I would consider that a nice entry long, with stops just below. And there's your pivot there on the daily to give you a good idea of when you should probably get stopped out. And I would probably keep it just underneath at that wick right there. So at like 191, 192 would be your stop. And then long this with a nice risk to reward possibility here. And if it breaks that, then I would just not try anymore. All right. Oh yeah, see, if it has massive unlock on the 16th, I don't know. I mean, I've seen this happen before though, where like they have massive unlocks and then the thing just starts flying upward and everyone's like, "What's happening?" So like you can't really use that too much. I mean, the weekly's still super bullish. It hasn't gotten to its take profit zone yet. It's just underneath it, so totally could still come up in here. And it's not bearish. At the very least, it's not really even bearish, but if it does close below the weekly 8 EMA, which it hasn't yet, next week, then maybe we can say, all right, we're going to pull back down here. But yeah, just be careful with leverage. That's for sure. All right, RNDR. RNDR right there. All right, so this is likely just going to keep going up into our take profit zone up here. I know that seems crazy, but honestly, the move already from $2 to $12 is crazy enough. But this is what's possible, right? I would say if you're in from like, under $1 to $2, you should probably be taking some profits just to get yourself back to break even at least, and then see how far you can push this. But that's all up to you and your risk management. So I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I know that if I had this from $1, I'd be taking some profits. Cruise rambling is gold. Thanks. I appreciate it. TIA. Man, I've been holding this thing. Everyone told me to buy TIA, and now look what happens. I bought it like right here, right? And then I get to 5 weeks of down, but I don't know. It was an airdrop, right? And so maybe people are finally taking profits. I don't know, but it could go all the way to $12 and still maintain its bullishness. So who knows how far that's going to eventually go. I don't have any downtrend to really measure to see take profit levels above, which makes it tough. I might move on with it, to be honest with you, and find something cooler. I also staked all of this crap on Cosmos, and I have yet to receive a single airdrop in like 2 months. So I'm not really happy about that either. I think I would have rather had other things this whole time. So I'm losing my patience with things like TIA and INJ also, to be honest with you. I thought it would have gone up here faster than it has been. So I'm not real sure. It's broken this downtrend, and I've been waiting 2 weeks now for it to make a move. After doing that, and now we're just retesting it another time. So if it fails and comes back into here, I'm just gonna let it go for something else. But I'm gonna give it a little bit more time to hold that pivot, hold that trend line, and try to make this move up to the 1.272 at least. Brett. I don't know if I've heard of this one. Which one's in USD? This one. Oh, it's on base. Okay. So that's, really tough to chart. Looks like there's very little volume in this. But I suppose we could put a trend line here and say it's broken it. And draw our fibs from like this location to this location. And see that we have to break that 382. Well, we just did. We broke the 236. So yeah, that looks good. Weekly's turning bullish now. Oh, wait, that's the 1 hour. Okay, so I'm on the 1 hour because this is so new. So I don't even know if this is the chart I should be looking at, if it's on base. Like, I don't know. But it looks bullish, breaking downtrend. EMAs are crossing here on the 1 hour. Maybe that's good enough. But it's definitely looking good on a break here. Might not be right. One, it's 357 million market cap. Yeah, maybe not. Let's try again. Is it? So this is not, like, I don't have anything on base here. This is all on Uniswap and PancakeSwap. Fourth one? Fourth. I don't know. Are you asking me about a crypto fourth? Or are you telling me to use this fourth one? It's definitely not it. Okay. Yeah, I'm not too sure about Brett. I'm not sure if I'm looking at the right thing. Fourth. Okay, well, it's definitely bullish here. Bullish on the weekly, over pivot, and over the 236. So maybe we get a little retest down here to push higher. And then this could be a nice TP spot here at the 382 where the R3 is sitting as well. And then you'll want to keep your stop loss just underneath, like, that's pretty far away. I guess I would go with those candles right there, last week's low. And let's see what that does. So from here, be a 12% loss-ish to here would be 55. That's not bad. That's more than 3 to 1. So I'd take that bet on a bullish market. And I mean, if you're just buying spot, you really got to keep your stop under this pivot, which is like really far away. But that's what you got to do with crypto. So, and if you see another retest of that 236, you might want to try to buy a little bit at the 8 EMA if we wick there again. That's how I'd approach that. WLD, that's somewhere down here. All right, well, it came very close to that 2 mark I was pointing out earlier this week. And as long as it can hold that 1.618, then we can see the 2.272. And then really what we can do also is, instead of measuring that downtrend, we can measure this one. And we can also see that we're over that 1.618. So as long as we hold $8, we should be good to see 1377, right? And so just use these levels here as your guide for that. Okay, let me see if I can do that. Okay, so that is this guy. And that's kind of some crazy price action. I mean, this looks like it's just gonna like keep going parabolic, but honestly, there's just not enough chart history to really give anything real accurate here. So you can see that, I don't even know if I'm on the right candle here. Kind of hate Deck Screener trying to chart it. So here's your support that you need to watch for at the 1.618 is basically 0.03180. If that fails, then it probably breaks structure and heads down to here. It might be doing another one of these motions before it can go higher, but I would just use that 3-cent mark as your stop loss. Next take profit would be 4251 and then 0.048. So just draw this downtrend from this top, and I'm probably not even accurate here. Like it needs to be like there to there. So yeah, you can see it's more like 0.034. So I hope that helps. It's too new to really have too much confidence in. LRC. Wait, I think I have that one. LRC. Guess I'll go with that one. Charted it before. All right, so that's bullish, and this is your support now. Basically, is right in here. I drew a blue line here at one point for some reason. Don't remember why. Huh. All right, so that is this is your support. And then here's your first TP, and then multiple after that. Go with the 382 first, and then the R3, and then the 0.5. And then use this as your stop. You probably need to keep it underneath it. You can see how bad that can wick through everything and still close above. So that looks tough. BCHG. Is this it? Oh, you're looking at this one. Bitcoin Cash ETF by Grayscale. All right, so we are in the golden pocket. And so now you can basically expect these levels here above to hit as long as the 618 and this R3 holds. So 780 to $8 is your support now, and you can try to take it another 25% higher to that 6.8 or the 7.1. But keep your stop just underneath this. All right, is that all? All right, guys. Well, let's see what we get this week, huh? It's kind of already being a little crazy. Like, alts just are all over the damn place. Oh, what'd you do, Link? See, all the fun trading happens during the weekly outlook. Not that I would have shorted it. But anyways, all right, guys, thanks very much. I appreciate your time, and I'll post the recording in the weekly outlook channel, and have yourselves a great week.